I'm Hovey Smith, and in the next few minutes I want to take you on a bow fishing trip all the way across North America, from South Carolina to Washington State. Now this was a trip that I did in 2004 after I published my book, Practical Bow Fishing. I wanted to demonstrate that bow fishing is something that you can do all the way across North America almost any time of year and take a great variety of fish. And that's exactly what I did. So, I have a bow fishing boat. This is a very expensive airboat. Some people bow fish from airboats, but that is not my boat. Here is a jet boat. You see it rigged up for bow fishing with a pedestal on top and a deck on front. And that is not my boat. Here's another bow fishing boat. Nice, beautiful job of welding. You've got a deck and safety rails. But that is not my boat. This is my boat. This is Bondo Boat. It is an old boat used when I bought it. It's a canoe style boat made by a company in Georgia, actually laid on fiberglass. And I drug this all the way across North America. Here it is being launched in the Yellowstone River in Montana. So we bow fished out of this boat, and I bow fish out of it yet now at 2010. Here it is. It looks a little lost there amongst those trailers, but here we were. We were dragging this stuff all the way across North America. A little 4 horsepower engine. That's all you needed for this little boat. The only time I actually got into trouble was in the Yellowstone River, and that was too much river for that engine. Now, we had a little trouble changing tire. No big deal. You can see a Weldo trailer there. We started in South Carolina. Previously, I had bow fished in Charleston Harbor, so I'd already done that, so I didn't see any need to go that far again. Among other things I shot were stingrays, like this one. Stingrays, incidentally, are edible and are good, and yeah, I ate these. So we went to Lake Hartwell on the South Carolina side, and here we did some carp, which we gave away and were consumed by the gentleman you saw. I didn't bother to stop and bow fish again in Georgia, since I do that all the time anyway. But here are some Georgia fish. These are some carp, and these happen to be from Lake Sinclair. And you can see a little close-up of Weldo trailer there in Bondo Boat. This is good friend Paul Presley, and he's just taken a nice Longnose Gar out of the Oconee River. Gar are good eating fish, by the way. Then we went to Tennessee. I'd always wanted to fish Nickerjack Lake, and we did, and we finally managed to get a carp out of it. Not because there were no fish in there, but I just couldn't hit anything at that time. So then we proceeded on up to Illinois, and there we fished Rend Lake. Now we fished both the upper part of Rend Lake behind the dam and also the lower part, both of which were good. We got fish out of both the impoundment and the free-flowing parts, and we got a mix of garfish. These are short-nosed gar and spotted gar, and they're a little different, and here are the spots on the spotted gar, so you can very easily see how they get the name. Now, both species are edible, good eating fish. Then we proceeded on up to Minnesota, and there we found a little lake in the land of 10,000 lakes that had some fish in it, and we proceeded to fish below the dam. In this spillway, we got a variety of fish, which you'll see in a second. The middle one is the carp, and the others on the top and the bottom, I'm not real sure what they are, except they're not particularly good fish, so far as eating goes. Then we went to Wisconsin, and we found a lake there, paradoxically named Fish Lake, and we proceeded to fish in Fish Lake. It's choked with weeds, and it's got lots of carp in it, and I finally managed to snag one, meaning shoot one. Then we went to North Dakota. Lake Sacagawea in North Dakota runs well over 100 miles. Huge lake. There you see it. No trees out there, you notice. Pretty barren. You get caught out in the middle of that water and you're in trouble if the wind comes up. But the wind was calm, so we went around and we fished, and sure enough, we found some fish. We sure did. And here a nice display of carp that we got out of the lake. That, incidentally, is a Kodiak recurve. It was a used bow when I bought it. Started bow fishing with it. Use it right now. Then we went to Montana. Now in Montana, what we wanted to try for was paddlefish out of the Yellowstone River. And we are now launching Bondo Boat in the Yellowstone. That was more river than that was boat and motor. I needed a bigger motor, particularly when the spring flood. We did take some carp out of this little eddy at the Seven Sisters fishing area. But this was what I was after. I wanted me a paddlefish. Couldn't see them. Couldn't see them to shoot them. Never did connect with any. Then went to Washington State. There, we found an interesting lake, Surges Lake. And here is Steve Nelson shooting from Bondo Boat. He went with me. One of the very few times I had anyone else in the boat with me. Good thing, too, because I needed him to help land this huge carp. Now, that is the biggest fish I have ever bowfished. That is a huge carp. Then we went to Grays Harbor, and here is an oyster plant there where they dredge oysters. The dredging stuff looks a little different than we use in the southeastern coast. And they were having pirate days there at Grays Harbor, which was a sort of annual community celebration, and with music and bands and ships and sailing vessels and all kinds of stuff. Interesting for anyone who's interested in the sea. And we tried around Grays Harbor for some fish, hoping for some saltwater species, but never did connect with anything in Grays Harbor. Went out actually to the open Pacific, and here's a guy, and he's exercising his dog out there. He's just thrown a piece of timber out there for him. And what did we do with the fish? Well, some of them we ate, others we gave away. And here we are. We have a gar fish. This is a longnose gar. And there are 2 ropes of meat, back straps, if you like, out of a longnose gar. Absolutely boneless, good eating meat. Some of the best eating freshwater fish meat you've got. Here's a carp. This is a common German carp. So we take it, we clean it, put a little onion on it, a little pepper, a little salt, wrap it in tin foil. And I have a little grill with me. It's a small variety of Weber. And the fish is tinted in tin foil. You see the coals there. It's grilling nicely. So these are good fish. This is a quick way to cook it. And I'm now about ready to eat. So this is what happened. In my books, Practical Bow Fishing, you can find out much more about equipment, about points, about bows, about boats, about recipes, about the fish you can take. I write a very thorough book, so anything you want to know about bow fishing is fairly well in that book. Now, you can get the book best by ordering it directly from me. The book is now out of print. Amazon.com has a few on it for about $55 or so when I last looked. I'll sell them to you for $20. Just send me a check to this address, and I'll get your book off to you without any problems. You can check out things on my website and on my blog. Good bow fishing and good eating.